And we are joined now by Norman O'Reilly. He's actually a professor of management and head of the Department of Sports Administration at Ohio University. Thanks for joining us. The IOC has confirmed the DPRK and South Korea will be allowed to field a unified women's ice hockey team at the games. This is big news. What does this mean?
Yeah, thanks, Susan, for having me. It's as the previous report kind of outlined. There's a bit of two views here. One is it undermining the fairness of competition, having two countries compete together? But on the other side, is this really good for the world and the Olympics' role as a solidarity is one of its kind of key tenets of why the IOC exists and why the games exist. So I think most out there are thinking this is a positive move. Specific to hockey and having a joint team, the Korean team is not a threat for a medal. They could potentially have an upset along the way, but I think from the athletes involved, most would see this as a very good step and a very positive step. And in women's hockey in particular, there's a real desire to grow the game, a need for more countries to play. So my guess is most of the International Ice Hockey Federation and all the countries would see this as a positive thing, getting some attention for their sport.
So in the spirit of competition, when it comes to the actual game itself, will they face any backlash?
I don't think so. And I mean, we've seen this before where the IOC has approved, a number of when the Soviet Union, dissolved for the next games, they all still competed kind of together before their own. We've seen refugees compete under the IOC flag. There's a number of historical occurrences of politics taking a special role and making the world a better place. So I don't believe the athletes would see that. I think the issue, that's why I pointed out the medal potential. The issue would come where, for example, if you said maybe Canada and the United States are going to compete together in hockey and have a super team, then you might get a very different perspective, as other countries may feel like that hinders their chances to win gold.
Well, let's talk about the spirit of it. You mentioned that. They'll compete on a unified Korean flag. How significant is this?
I know, obviously, between North and South Korea, there are tensions. I think from an external perspective, I'm a Canadian who lives in the United States, and I know there's a lot of concern around, the political situation around the world. So anyone that I've talked to, anyone that I've been following, all the reports I've been following, has been very positive. And I think people see this as a great way to include both Koreas in the games, reduce some political tensions, some concerns over safety, et cetera, that have been out there. And I know those that are going to the games and would generally see this big picture as a very, very positive thing. I know I would.
That's right. The IOC President Thomas Bach said that, quote, "This was not an easy journey getting here." Give us an idea of what this took.
Yeah, I don't know the insides, but I've been involved in a number of international and national sport bodies over the years on boards, et cetera. And these are, as you can imagine, really difficult decisions. You've got 202 jurisdictions, plus or minus, represented on the IOC. They all have their own political views. They all have their own challenge. They have their own athletes, their own interests. So getting to this point, and then in particular with those two organizations that are now the two NOCs that have agreed and asked and requested the IOC to work together, you can be pretty sure the IOC was involved in brokering, if you will, or working with those two NOCs to get to this point, because I think the safety of the athletes, the role of the IOC in the Olympic Games and bettering the world would override any minor concerns that they might have around the competitive landscape or some athletes going to the game that may have not met the timelines or the qualification standards. A bigger picture, I think, that would be really good. And you can be sure the IOC had a big role in that.
Well, Professor Norm O'Reilly, we certainly appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us from Athens, Ohio.